Special Forces A-Team was flown by helicopter out of Wainwright Airport in a southeasterly direction for about an hour before being dropped off in the wilderness for an orienteering exercise that was going to last several days. Now, this location is north of the Brooks Range and south of the region of the National Petroleum Reserve. Technically, the area is the North Slope of the Borough of Alaska. Now, the North Slope is a large and geographically diverse location in northern Alaska, encompassing an area of approximately 88,000 square miles. It is the largest borough in the United States in terms of land area, but has a relatively small population. This population is predominantly the indigenous people who have been there for thousands of years, and their communities have a deep connection with the land and rely on traditional subsistence practices such as hunting, fishing, and whaling to sustain their way of life. Now, the North Slope, it stretches across the northernmost part of Alaska, bordered by the Arctic Ocean to the north, the Beaufort Sea to the east, the Yukon River to the west, and the Brooks Range to the south. The region is a vast tundra landscape with rolling hills, numerous rivers and lakes, and it's home to a diverse amount of wildlife. Now, that wildlife includes polar bears, Arctic foxes, caribou herds, musk oxen, Arctic wolves, all sorts of different species of birds. And then the coastal waters also have seals, whales, walruses. So now when this team of 11 well-trained soldiers, warriors if you will, with over 150 years of experience in rough terrains and life and death situations, not to mention, but I will, unusual circumstances, found themselves collectively saying, "What the f***?" Well, the team was wearing rucksacks and walking through deep snow in a wooded area with cross-country skis. They approached an area where the woods were too thick to go through with the skis. So the captain of the team decided to walk ahead on snowshoes with two other soldiers to check out the way ahead. After walking about 200 meters into thicker woods, they came across a set of tracks that immediately drew their attention. This was the first of several what-the-hell moments for the group. The tracks were obviously of a two-legged creature walking through the woods on a course perpendicular to their own. Human tracks of any kind are extremely rare in this part of Alaska. These were particularly unique due to the length of their stride and the fact that there was no crushed snow on either the entry or the exit side of the holes. Clean, quick entry and exits of the tracks indicate some significant agility and power. The captain was beyond intrigued and says,
"We stopped to investigate. When each of us took off our snowshoes, we sank into the snow to a depth of about 2 feet above the knee. When we attempted to take a step in the deep snow, we left an area of crushed snow on the entry side of the hole and then crushed the snow again upon taking our foot out of the hole to take the next step. Our feet made a drag mark in the snow as well, no matter how hard we tried to extract the foot without touching the surrounding snow. The best any of us could do was a stride between steps of about 1.5 feet. The tracks we were looking at had a stride of over 5 feet between steps and left the snow on both entry and exit from the hole totally untouched. After discussing the rational possibilities for a while, I sent one of my men back to bring up the rest of the team. Between the 11 men on that team, we had over 150 years of combined special forces experience in the woods all over the planet. They also had extensive experience in the tracking of everything with either 2 or 4 legs. We all studied the tracks and tried to come up with a reasonable explanation for what we were looking at. Only one explanation seemed to fit everything we saw, but it was not a reasonable explanation. Based on our group experience in tracking humans, we made an approximate determination as to the height and weight of the person who had made the tracks based on the stride and depth of indentation in the snow. The group consensus was a 2-legged person about around 9 foot tall and weighing approximately 500 to 600 pounds. That was our best educated guess.
He then made a decision to set the training mission aside for a while and follow the tracks through the woods. Wearing snowshoes, they pursued the tracks for about an hour before a horrifying sound reached their ears. From somewhere ahead, at a considerable distance, emanated the most chilling sound any of them have ever heard. The entire forest fell silent, and the pounding of their hearts seemed almost audible. It was a silence reminiscent of moments before an ambush, as if every creature and insect in the woods sensed an impending death and froze out of fear or self-preservation. Startled by the sound, which was a mix of a howl and a roar, the team sergeant, the most seasoned member of the team, halted the captain and spoke candidly. "Sir, speaking for both myself and the rest of the team, we really do not want to know what is at the end of these tracks." Expletives deleted. The admission surprised the captain, considering the team's years in Special Forces, during which they had never expressed fear towards anything on 2 or 4 legs. Understanding their trepidation, he agreed to resume the original mission. There was a unanimous understanding not to discuss the incident with anyone upon their return. It should be noted that they were on a training mission and lacked live ammunition, making a confrontation with whatever or whoever left those tracks highly perilous. Their curiosity about the tracks was outweighed by the reality that they would be no match for whatever awaited them. The soldiers collectively decided that they genuinely did not want to uncover what lay at the end of those tracks. Tracks in the snow were far easier to deny and ignore than confronting the actual source. Fear gripped the soldiers as they had both heard and seen enough. Their reluctance to seek further answers from an overwhelming sense of dread. The risk and reward ratio was clearly properly used in this situation. The other fact, the tracks stayed on the military crest of ridgelines and in low areas as much as possible. The only times the tracks crossed the ridgeline was in a saddle where it would not be seen. The thing which struck them as odd was that while the tracks depicted someone far too large to be human, whatever was making the tracks was moving through the woods exactly as one of them would if they were conducting an escape and evasion. Whatever it was knew the land as it maneuvered to bypass clearings well before they came into view and was making a concentrated effort to remain unseen. They still think that the sound they heard was intended to warn them not to follow and to fall back. Now, the investigator Dr. Wolf H. Fahrenbach noted later in a follow-up interview, this extraordinarily concise report is undoubtedly the northmost record of any Sasquatch observation. The officer who submitted the report was, when he contacted him, overseas on duty and talked with him at length when he returned. His report was factual and to the point, without exaggeration. Given some considerable delay between the original retelling and this account, assorted inaccuracies might have crept in along the way, specifically names and directions, since they were not specifically told where they were being taken on this orienteering mission. He said the footprints were very large and essentially round, presumably from snow adhering to the hair on the sides of the foot. The witness could turn his boot with inflatable Mickey Mouse overboot sideways in the footprint. The witness described and imitated the sound that was made. It was an angry-sounding growling scream at a deep pitch. I don't know about you, but for me, when I first heard about this encounter, it was the part where the captain talked about the Sasquatch using the ridgeline and using escape and evasion tactics like they would, combined with the sheer size and agility. Man, that sent chills down my spine. If that thing was angry or on the hunt, you'd be beyond screwed, and possibly even with a decent firearm. All right, I want to thank you for checking in with us today. If you can caress those like and sub buttons, by all means let us know what you think they might have been tracking. If you have an encounter or story you'd like to tell, hit us up in the comment section or even drop us an email. We got a few really wild clips that were sent to us. I have to get the video edited. Until then, stay frosty and aware, beautiful people. Thank you. Thank you very much.